We were heading toward a group of habituated gorillas, and that word matters because they are habituated, not tame, which means that they're still wild animals. They just know how to exist with us nearby. And that took years. Like habituation programs take sometimes even decades. And the goal isn't to make gorillas comfortable with humans, it's more so to make them see humans as predictable enough so that the gorillas don't feel constantly threatened. So they have the same trackers, the same distance that's allowed between us and them, the same behavior, the same food that they're getting day after day. There's no touching, no interactions, and no shortcuts because if it's done right, the gorillas won't approach you, but they also just won't flee. They'll continue living, eating, resting, grooming, all those different types of things, and moving through their own territory like you're just part of the background noise, just like another animal. And that balance is very, very fragile because a gorilla that loses all fear of humans can actually become more vulnerable and more dangerous because they'll get close to people, even people that aren't part of the habituation program. They'll get close to settlements or situations that just aren't safe. But spending a full week with them changes how you notice things, how their behavior is steady, organized, social, how the groups move with intention, and the leadership structure is also clear. And you see how much time is spent not doing anything like crazy dramatic, but just literally just eating, sleeping, and existing, which is important because conservation often focuses on moments that are really like flashy, but the real work happens in this sort of consistency. And one of the big misconceptions is that once an area is protected, then the job is done. But that's not quite how it works. Habituated gorillas require constant monitoring, trackers, rangers, veterinary oversight, and infrastructure that isn't flashy, but it never stops running. And for some groups, just their baseline survival, like the food that they need, the salaries for everybody to help keep the operations running, they go upwards of 15K a month. And that's just for the baseline continuity of the program. And a lot of times in conservation, the funding doesn't last because donors are going to pull out or grants will end. And the animals, they don't just get a pause on their feeding. So the programs have to adapt. And slowly but steadily, Gabon has been introducing ecotourism, which is carefully controlled tourism that's not really entertainment, but is trying to fund the program. But that's where conservation gets complicated because is human presence a risk? Inherently, it is, but is losing funding a bigger one? Yeah, oftentimes it is, but there are no perfect answers at the end of the day. But over this week, it became clear to me that within conservation, no matter who you're talking to, it's more about protecting the systems that allow people to keep on showing up to be able to take care of these animals, systems that don't collapse when the attention or funding just fades for one reason or another, systems that balance visibility with restraint as well. And Gabon is one of those the best places in the world that actually does this kind of work. They have large intact forests that are protected, low population density, protected land, and all of that. But even here, conservation does depend on people choosing long term commitment over short term interest. And gorillas don't just benefit from admiration alone, they benefit from consistency.